This is the Jimmy Anderson Show, the weekly report on Oregon State University basketball.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob Akamian along with the coach. Welcome to Oregon State Basketball 1990. We'll be with you for the next 8 weeks talking basketball with Jimmy Anderson. 33 years on the job and you finally get your own TV show.
Well, everything I do this year, Bob, is new. So every game that we go to, every arena is the first time for me in this first go-round.
It's been an exciting start, 11-2, and now 4 straight heart-stopping wins. This has got to age you a little bit.
Well, it's not even ages you, but it scares you. I think I'm losing a little more hair, even though you can't notice it. But it seems like our games are so close right down at the end. We're dodging bullets and just hope that we can stay with it and keep our perspective where we need to go.
Second weekend of conference play we're going to talk about today, and 2 exciting wins down at Stanford and Cal. Those have been tough places to play over the years.
Very tough, very, very tough.
We're going to start with Stanford now from Friday night at Maples Pavilion. The Cardinal, that's usually been the tougher place to play. We'll take a look at this one. Mike Montgomery doing a good job with guys you haven't heard of this year, and they are still a scrappy team. They don't have a Todd Lichty, but they got guys who play like Todd Lichty.
Adam Keefe, to name one.
See Gary Payton on his way to a big night, 36 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, and you get in these close games, Gary is a guy who can get it when you need it. How often can you call on him? Can he do this every night?
Every game. That's what All-Americans are for, Bob. You know that. They gotta come to play, they gotta lead, they gotta get the stats for you. And in crunch time, they're the ones that usually take over.
Now, let's talk about this game, how it went along, your feelings there on the floor.
Well, it was so exciting from start to finish. There wasn't any time that you really had a chance for a breather. We had some key plays by Carl Anderson, Alan Celestine. Scott Haskin, I thought, had a very good defensive game for us, especially because he had to guard Adam Keefe most of the time, and Adam probably had his least productive game of the entire season.
And of course, they had other guys pick up the slack. In particular, John Patrick hit 6 3-point shots, and Ammon had a couple of big plays for them. So they've got other guys who can do it from the outside.
Well, they power things inside so much that the perimeter, you have to leave it open a little bit just to pack it in and help a little bit. And those guards just drilled it 6 for 7, I think, for somebody that you really haven't heard about in the Pac-10. And that was a pressure-packed game for him. It was his first start also.
Big plays down the stretch. Again, Alan Celestine off the bench. This guy is really coming into his own right now since the Far West Classic.
He's given us everything we really want from a substitute. He comes in and gives us immediate help. He gives us defense. He gets assists. He's been scoring. Plus, he's a tough guy. And that alone gives our program a little bit of help.
This was the key basket down the stretch, that nice pass from Teo, and again, Gary making it all happen. 77-76, the final in this one, and again, a big win at Maples because it is very tough to play there. Take a look at some numbers from this game now. 77-76 the final. Told you about Gary, 36 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. Earl Martin had 16 points, and the big numbers for Stanford. Patrick with the 6 3-pointers. Earl getting into the act. There always has been one other guy who gets into the scoring act, and I don't know how much it relies on it. If Gary gets them the ball in particular, or just let a guy get hot, let him shoot?
Well, I think they just come up to the level of what we need, and Earl being a 5th-year senior, he's one of our players that we have to count on. He's an excellent shooter, and he's been kind of feeling himself as being one of the key players, and I think he likes that role, and he is contributing almost consistently in every game now for us.
And we've seen him now. He's much more aggressive taking the
Yes,
shot. I think the second game of the Far West Classic, he was cold, but he kept taking the shot.
He's confident. He's confident now when he sets up, and he lives off Gary a little bit because Gary is going to penetrate and dish it to him, and that's Earl's famous feeling right there. Gary slides in with the penetration, and Earl's got his hands ready to shoot.
All right, that was round 1 of the weekend. When we come back, we'll talk about Sunday afternoon in Berkeley. The Beavers take on Cal. We'll be back on the Jimmy Anderson Show right after this word. Game 2 of the weekend against California on Sunday. That has been a great rivalry these past few years with Cal's great guards going against Gary Payton and Will Brantley. It's really been a good matchup, and Keith Smith coming down to a senior year now. It's a good battle. You get those two together.
They always have good players there, and their guard play over the years have been very special. And again, there at Harmon Gym, you know, their fans are quite rowdy and they get after you, so it's a very exciting place to play.
If you've never been in Harmon Gym, it's like playing in a shoebox with about 3,000 people jammed in there, and they're all yelling at you.
Yeah, that's for sure, and they're pointing fingers and yelling. not obscenities, but they're yelling things that aren't very friendly.
And of course for Gary Payton, that's practically his home court. He played
Right.
at Skyline in Oakland.
Yeah.
He played some high school games there, I know, in playoffs, so he likes being there.
Well, he's always pumped up for that game. In fact, even to a fault at times, because what he does, he probably gets a little too exuberant and he tries to do too much. And I think that kind of caught him up in the first half at this game.
All right, let's pick up the highlights now from the Cal game. Sunday afternoon at the Harmon Arena now. It's really a gym, but they've changed the name of it. Pete Newell Court. And again, this was a very strange start. Cal really put on a lot of pressure and took charge. They almost took it to you playing your game.
Right, they're playing very, very well right now. They're confident. They have good leadership. They have a young man in Hendricks that has given them inside play. They play 3 smaller players that give them a lot of quickness, and it really has helped their style of play. So they're very difficult. Every game they've played, they've given their opponent all they can ask for.
And tremendous work on the boards by both Fisher and Hendrick. Fisher, the guy from Renton up Seattle way, he had a big game, both scoring and rebounding. Hendrick there putting one back in. And this almost was troublesome at times. They had so much control on the boards.
Right, especially the first half. They really took it to us, and Fisher's an excellent athlete. I mean, he can jump, and they like to throw him high feeds, and Hendricks is playing very confident. So there's one of our high feeds to Carl Anderson, and that was a real help for us right at that time because we needed some points.
That was a big play there. Carl
Right.
getting off the bench, getting a few minutes in there
Right.
now. Now we're in second half action, and Gary started to make it happen. He almost was laying in the weeds in the first half.
Yeah, that isn't by design because he tries to play pretty hard all the time. There's a nice play by Bob Cavill. Bob has come in and given us some key moments also.
This game gets into the later stages. Cal, midway through the half, opens up the 10-point lead, and plenty of time left, and then the rally will come from that point on. Smith getting a shot in there again. He didn't have the big scoring game, which might have
No,
evened
but
things out a
he
bit.
steadies them, and he handles pressure for them, and he plays good defense, and he is their key player.
And of course, that basket started the comeback. Haskin with the banker, and then the tide turns in the final 8 minutes.
Right. There's another board that
Hendrick,
we gave
one
up.
more
Yeah,
time.
one more time.
Going to see a little of Gary in action here with the steal. He's going to drive. He almost makes this happen here. Well, watch how this play ends. This is a one-man show here.
Yeah, there's a foul. He converted both of those. There's Alan Celestine again coming off the bench and giving us those prime moments.
Now, what is it about Allen? All of a sudden he has really made it happen. He's always been the good physical specimen. What is clicking for him right now?
Well, he's confident, and he wants to help the team. So he goes out and plays cool, and he plays hard, and he gives us what we need at that particular moment.
Get down in the late going, and again, this is a good group effort. And Gary doesn't have to hit the big baskets here. Allen has 2 down the stretch.
Right. We've kind of passed the joy around a little bit, and it always feels good when those hoops go in, because once in a while they bounce out for you. So we needed that help right then, and there's Smith again. He made a tremendous play off that, shooting off balance.
And now with the court spread here, we'll find the open man underneath.
Yeah, Scotty,
Haskin again.
Yeah, Scotty almost fumbled that one, but he gained control, and he's playing better every game.
There's some of Gary's family. I think he had,
Right.
what, 17 comps to that one?
Right.
Big crowd. 64-58 the final. Really a huge win. Lou Campanelli not too happy there as you walk off the court. But a big win, of course, to sweep that. 4-0 in the Pac-10, 11-2 in the season. We'll look at some of the numbers from this game now. Fisher leading the way for Cal with 16, and Hendrick had 15 for OSU. Payton had 20, Haskin 16, Martin 13. Really even better balance with the scoring.
Right, and that's what we look for, really. We look for a combination of inside and outside help, and this game we did get it.
Can you believe you're 4-0 in the Pac-10 right now?
No. We were dreaming and hoping that we could win at home and split on the road, and this kind of give us a little special boost, the fact now that we were 4-0. But we're not getting carried away because this season's a long ways from being over.
All right, coming up, our featured player of the week. It is Gary Payton. We'd have to do him sometime this year. We might as well do him the first week. We'll talk with Gary about his senior season when we return. Our feature player this week is, of course, Gary Payton, the senior from Oakland, all-world for this team right now. He's been Pac-10 Player of the Week twice already, averaging 27 points a game. He does everything for this squad, and people expect even more out of Gary. We talked with him this week about his expectations for his senior year and what he wants for this team.
Well, I think if Coach calls upon me, I think I am going to be able to, you know, just take it on to myself to try to win the ball game for us. But I think Earl and Will and everybody else, they can do the same thing. It doesn't matter. I play defense, get a steal, and then get an assist. You know, it's better for me to be an all-around person than just being a one-player person, doing one thing, just like scoring. I'm not trying to say it's my team, right? Like I play by myself, but you know, I control the team, I run the team, so you know, it's good. You know, you can say that every now and then, but it's still, everybody knows it's everybody's team. Right now, all everybody want to do is just win a Pac-10 championship and go pretty far in the NCAA, and we got a good chance at that because I think this is a good ball club because we all play together, we all like a big family. And we don't quit. None of us quit. We all play hard together, and we've seen in the Far West Classic we didn't quit. It was down, and we came back and won. So it doesn't matter. I think right now everybody's going to be playing really well.
Don't quit, and I know that's one thing you always talk about OSU basketball, and that's the attitude you want your players to exemplify.
No question about that, Bob. And Gary is the epitome of that because he never quits. And also, you know, the thing that's precious about Gary, he works hard. You know, he is not content where he is right now. He wants to keep getting better, and our whole team is thinking in that vein, and that's the key to, you know, success and improvement, is if you keep wanting to get better.
There was a lot of question before the season. I know I wondered about this. Would you let him take as much charge on the court as he did in the past couple of years? And it seems like you're letting him go, but the team is even working more as a group. Is it just he knows what he's supposed to do and you trust him?
Well, it's a combination of things, but mainly this team is a year older. We have almost everybody back from last year except for Gary Knox. So being a year older, a year wiser, a year stronger, and all the things that go with, you know, just growing up, so to speak, in a tough league, in a tough conference, Gary has just matured. And so I can't say it's this or that. I just think it's a year older and wiser, and he's taking the lead and he wants it. I'm just there to help direct a little bit, and he's doing it all for us, and the players are following him.
I think of the Louisiana Tech game in the Far West Classic when he had the ball. Everyone knew he was going to shoot the ball. He goes against three people, right, makes the shot. Would you give him the ball anytime, anywhere when you need a basket?
Well, I'm not really the one to give him the ball. It's his teammates. You know, we can set up plays and X's and O's, but when it comes down to it, the team wants Gary to have it because they know that he will take the shot or get the ball to the right person.
All right, let's fuel the fire a little more. Is he the best guard in the country?
I think so. I think not only that, Bob, I think he's the best player in the country. I'm sure I'll have people debate that with me all over the world, or the United States at least, but I think he's the best.
Yeah, well, I'll throw another vote in on that pile right now. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the history of the OSU program, something I know that's very important to you from all your years in it. We'll chat with Helen Gill, the wife of the great Slats Gill, when the Jimmy Anderson Show continues in 1 minute. As part of our show all this season, we will talk about the history of Oregon State basketball. It is a rich tradition and rich in coaches. Jim Anderson, just the latest in a string of 4 great coaches now who have guided OSU basketball the last 60 years. And we're going to go back to the beginning, to the days of Slats Gill, who was at Gill Coliseum, before it was Gill Coliseum, 36 years, and we had a chance to talk with Helen Gill, his wife, about the past and about her feelings about Jim Anderson, just a young player years ago, now taking over as head coach. We talked with Helen Gill this week.
He got his name as a boy when he was swimming in his birthday suit. A neighbor started calling him Slats.
Slats Gill breathed, ate, and slept basketball. So his young bride soon learned what the life of a coach's wife is all about.
The trips away from home at Christmas, the recruiting when the coaches went out into the field, which was very difficult, especially with children. I have 2 children, 2 babies, left at home weekend after weekend.
It was only after his passing that Slats received his most notable honors, but 25 years later, Helen Gill is still an avid observer of Beaver basketball.
The king is dead. Long live the king. So that's sort of the way I felt when Ralph Miller came. Yes, I think it's a great legacy. I'm pleased that the building was named for Slats. I'm sorry it wasn't officially named during his lifetime.
The Gills had already been around Corvallis a few years when a shy kid from Hoquiam put on number 34 and began his own association with OSU.
I'm very happy now that Jimmy has finally become the coach. He's like my own child, really. And I think he's had a wonderful start. I hope he can continue. I'm a little concerned about the years after Gary Payton leaves, but I think he'll find somebody to replace him.
Maybe you can send Helen out to do a little recruiting for you. She's certainly seen enough basketball over the years. You've talked so much about the family feeling in the program, and talk to her, and you talk to Paul Valenti, and they certainly give it right back in turn.
Right. Well, you know, it's such a rich heritage, you know, and they've always been so supportive. And of course, when I first came to Oregon State in '56, Helen was the first lady, and she stayed with us all through those years in support and help and advice. And you know, she's, if you count the coaches thereafter, she's like our great-great-grandmother, and she's just a beautiful person, and she adds so much to our program.
And she's been around. She goes to the games all the time. She tells me she used to be even worse than Gene Miller as far as being the avid fan in the stands.
Right, right. Well, Slats Gill and her were a beautiful combination, and they helped us with this tradition. And you know, anywhere you go in Gill Coliseum, you got to remember those people.
It was an interesting time because he was such a traditionalist. He was just there to coach. He just loved the game. And I know Paul says in their spare time they'd sit and talk basketball on Sundays. And yet he also built the program in that they progressed with building the new building and did the upgrading in the late 50s, early 60s.
Right.
Kind of an interesting mix for the times.
For sure. And he was a demanding person too, boy. I'm tell you, you stood at attention a little bit and you listened, and you got after it. When Slats talked, you had to go play. You had to work hard all the time, and the whole program, we hope, will continue in that vein.
Now, you were, I believe, the first graduate assistant. I mean, there weren't a lot of graduate assistants in that time, and I believe you were one of the first in the program.
I'm not really sure on that, you know, the complete history of graduate assistants, but I know we've used that position to help, you know, people graduate eventually. But I graduated, fortunately, in 4 years and wanted to come back. I was a physical education teacher, so I was lucky enough to be hired as a graduate assistant and handle a freshman team.
And little did you know then.
Little
You'd end
did
up
I
here.
know, right, that's for sure.
All right, when we come back, we're going to take a look ahead at this week's opponent. It's one game, but it's a big one. Civil War, round 2. The Ducks in Eugene. We'll talk about it when we come back. The Oregon Ducks, this weekend's opponent, a single game Saturday night at MacArthur Court in the Pit, a great place for this rivalry over the past couple of years. And every week we will bring in one of the Oregon State assistants to help scout the opposition. Andy McCluskey is up first with his scouting report of the Ducks.
Okay, the University of Oregon runs a lot of different plays in the half court. I'm just going to show you one of their favorite sets that they use to try to attack this shaded area that I've shown on the blackboard here, and they'll do that by sending a number of different players into that area depending on what the defense, in this case, and depending on how we play them. One of their favorite plays is to throw the ball here from Brandon to Reynolds. Brandon will go through here to form the overload. Then as the ball is thrown from Reynolds into the high post, Terrell goes off this screen set by Lucas, either high or low, either on the baseline side or on the top side. And they're trying to attack this shaded area. That's only one of the ways that they'll use to attack that shaded area. The other one might be very simply, if we were to overplay Terrell here, they may have Dunn set a back screen, so they throw here. If we overplay Terrell, he goes back this way and looks for the lob play over the top.
They like to be in that spot on the floor, and that was one thing California did in beating them on Friday night. Completely took away the inside, and they were stuck shooting that outside. So that's one way to handle them.
Well, that's one way, but you know, they're an excellent team, and they can hit the outside shot. So you can't get carried away in any one area. You just have to play good defense, period, on their inside game and their outside game. Keep pressure on. Down at MacCourt, I know they're going to play an excellent game, so we have to match that intensity and their ability with good basketball ourselves.
This may be a little harder than in recent years because you're playing them at their place, and for the second time already. You saw them in the finals of the Far West Classic, and I think they maybe learned a little bit. We're going to take a little look at that championship game from the Far West Classic here. I think they've learned that they can play with you already this year. And here's the championship game. Of course, Brandon seeing his first action from Grant up in Portland. Keith Reynolds, that is a deadly combination. And Reynolds, who I've seen him since his sophomore year in high school, he is so much better just with Brandon giving him the ball.
I'm sure they'll run that play again because we didn't have a defender on that one.
They rely on those two. Richard Lucas there getting into the middle. And then there's the youngster, Bob Fife, who's seeing some action now. They are much better, I think, than anybody gave them credit for this year, and they are rapidly improving.
Well, they have some shooters. Lucas gives them a physically strong person inside. He's very aggressive. He works hard. I like his style of play because he gets after people. Then you have Brandon, who is their floor leader, like Gary is to us. So they have good balance. I think they're well coached. They play hard. So it's going to be another one of those war games, and down there you never know what's going to happen.
You know, Oregon has not won a game outside of the state this year, but they have only lost one in the state, and that was in the final of the Classic. So they are very tough in the state, and of course very tough at McCourt. And the last few years, it's been the game down there that's been the real war, even when Oregon State had the overmatch. You know, we've had the close finishes, the Sherwood shot, and then Randy Grant the year later for Oregon. So it always seems to come down to this at McCourt.
Well, they play very confident there, and they shoot well. And they get themselves ready to play a typical Duck Beaver game, and I think we're going to do the same thing. So it should be an entertaining game, at least I hope it is. We're not expecting a rout, and I know they don't think they're going to rout us, but we just hope it's a good, solid, honest sportsmanship game, and that, you know, we all hope as coaches that we can come out on top.
Now, knowing that you bleed orange and knowing that for years you were the assistant that did the firing up before these Civil War games, how do you do this now? Do you still give them the fire and brimstone?
Well, we talk about the tradition and the rivalry. There's no question about that, and the importance of the game. And the main thing is that, you know, if you're going to run for the conference championship, you just got to keep winning. And so each game is monumental. It's important. It's important to every team in the Pac-10 conference. So down there, especially when you get down there and see all the lemon and green, let's face it, there's no way you're not going to get me flushed a little bit and get me into the game.
To play them again so soon after playing them in the Classic, this is really the first game because this is the one that counts. It wouldn't have mattered so much if you lost the one in the Classic, but you want the conference win. So you can't ease up here and think, well, we get them again in Corvallis later.
No, we're not. I don't think in this game anybody.
I don't think you'd ever ease up against the Ducks. But
you think ease up. You just want to go in and compete. You want to, because you know if you don't battle and keep your composure and keep your cool in there, that they're a good enough team. They've already done it this year to the Arizona schools, so you know we're no different. If we don't play good basketball, you're in trouble.
Injury situation. Will Brantley still hobbling around a little bit?
Yes.
He can play, but he's not 100%?
Well, yesterday was his worst day. We thought it was healing a little bit, but at practice, in fact, he didn't even practice. We just started to loosen him up a little bit, and then they said, hey, get on the sideline because you're not helping anybody, especially yourself, the way you're limping. So I'm not really sure what his case is going to be.
Your feelings about the conference right now? You're tied for first with UCLA, but I think the teams that people forecast to be down and out aren't down and out at all.
No, any team in our conference can beat anybody on any given night, home or away, more generally away. But if you look at the won and lost record, we don't have a team in our conference that has a losing record at this point. So anybody can do it too if you don't get ready to play the way you need to play to win.
And the home conference games are critical. You pretty much got to win them at home if you're going to win it. Cal, and I'm sure Cal is smarting after Sunday, but you're going to get into that same boat later this year. You beat Arizona now, but when we get Cougars and USC and those guys in later in the year, it's the same story for you.
Exactly. Arizona and UCLA are still, in my estimation, the teams to beat. They are the class right now because they have the best material overall, and that's why they were picked to be 1 and 2. And so anything can happen, and we're in a good position, but to maintain that, you have to, again, improve and play tough, aggressive basketball.
All right, we will take one more step this week, the trip to Oregon. We'll be back next week at the same time with the Jimmy Anderson Show. Our guest will be Paul Valenti talking about another era of OSU coaching. We'll have our Player of the Week, Chalk Talk with Freddie Boyd. So join us then. For the coach, I'm Bob Akamian. Good day. Now here's the complete Pac-10 basketball schedule for this weekend. We start on Thursday with 4 games. Arizona goes on the road to Los Angeles. They'll start off with USC at the LA Sports Arena Thursday night. Meanwhile, Arizona State, a very tough one. They'll have to play UCLA at Pauley Pavilion. UCLA right now sharing the Pac-10 lead with Oregon State. The Bay Area schools head up north. California goes to the Palouse to play Washington State in Pullman, while Stanford will take on the Huskies in Seattle. No action Friday night. The scene shifts to Saturday now. 4 more games. Of course, the Beavers and the Ducks. The only game involving the 2 Oregon schools this weekend, that is Saturday night. McCourt in Eugene, a 7:30 tip-off. Arizona and UCLA in the afternoon. That will be a big one. Arizona with a chance to reclaim at least a share of the conference later, at least knock UCLA out of their tie for first place, depending on what happens to the Beavers. Arizona and UCLA, always a good one. That will be the feature game Saturday afternoon. Arizona State will try to recover from their matchup with the Bruins. They will play at Southern Cal, and the Cal Bears will take on the Washington Huskies at Heck Edmondson Pavilion. Sunday, just one game. The Stanford Cardinal will head to the east, and they will play the Washington State Cougars on the Palouse. Now, the next home action for Oregon State coming up a week from now. They'll finally be back home for some conference games. First one since that last weekend of November. Beavers will host the 2 Washington schools. Washington State coming to town on Thursday night. Kelvin Sampson bringing his scrappy lineup to Gill Coliseum for a Thursday night game, a 7:30 start. And then over the weekend, the Washington Huskies will come to town. Always a big game between those two, and some great games at Gill Coliseum over the years. So the Washington schools are the next opposition for Oregon State. Again, in the early going, it is Oregon State and UCLA tied for the Pac-10 lead at 4-0. Arizona right behind with those 2 early losses they suffered back in November, and they will try to get back into it with a couple wins against the LA schools. That is always tough playing on the road, and this weekend's game at Pauley may really set the tone for the season. If Arizona comes up with their 3rd loss this early on, it could be impossible for the Wildcats to win the conference title. The big plus for Arizona, they play so well at home. They have that long winning streak going on at the McHale Center, and they are one of those teams that may well not lose at home this year. We talk a lot about the home winning streaks. Very important this season. The team that wins the conference will be the one that wins its home game. So while the wins down in the Bay Area were very big and I think very damaging for California's chances in particular, the Ducks and the Beavers will have to win up in Oregon, and those games at Gill Coliseum will be very important for Oregon State this year. So back at home next week, Thursday against Washington State, the Huskies in over the weekend. That's the next home action. Again, it'll be the Ducks and the Beavers Saturday night at McCourt, a 7:30 tip-off, and that game is, as you might expect, sold out. We will have highlights and comments from the coach next week on the Jimmy Anderson Show. Our guest will be former OSU head coach Paul Valenti, the man who took over after Slatskill left, and a man who in a large part is responsible for Jimmy Anderson having the head coaching job at this time. We'll also visit with our OSU Player of the Week and take a look ahead at the opponents from Washington and Washington State. That's all next week on the Jimmy Anderson Show. We'll see you then.
This is the Jimmy Anderson Show, the weekly report on Oregon State University basketball.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Akamian along with the coach, and it's time to recount another week with the Heart Attack Gang from Corvallis. This has got to drive you nuts, but you got to love it when the team keeps winning. Civil War, round 2, after last second win.
Well, anytime you win, you got to feel happy. But how you win sometimes can get you down. And winning close games is fun for the spectators and the fans, but it's kind of raises heck with the coaches.
How bad. And playing in Matt Court, for you, I know that's always a big win to get one out of there.
Well, it's a tough place to play. It's a hostile crowd. They behave themselves well this time. Sometimes you never know what's going to happen, but it was a great, exciting game for the fans. They were involved. Our players, both sides, fought hard, and it came down to one shot at the end.
All right, and we're going to have a chance to take a big look at this game this week, since it's only the one game of the weekend. The slate now at 12-2. 5-0 in the Pac-10 after last Saturday's victory at Matt Court against the Oregon Ducks. Let's pick up the highlights from the first half. There's the coach at Matt Court, and just as Ralph Miller took the teams in there over the years, you're kind of picking up that gauntlet now, and they love you just as much as they loved him there. And a sellout, their first sellout in quite a while in Eugene to see this one. The Ducks off to a great start, and Keith Reynolds really playing some good basketball this year. He's just unstoppable early on, and they're really finding the holes in defense.
Well, you could tell by that play alone that they really attacked our full court pressure and just brought the ball right to us.
Shots just not falling. Finally, Scott Haskin gets things going, and of course Scott, a big force in this game. We're going to hear from him later on, but Scott really made it happen early when those outside shots didn't go.
Well, it's kind of one of those things. You was wondering when you were going to get a hoop because they piled the points on very quickly, and all of a sudden we're looking at, gotta hope not a blowout. And then finally a few things started to fall, and then we're right back in the game.
Now there's Alan Celestine getting a pass to Gary Payton. Al Celestine, another one of our rising players, and he and Gary really work well together.
Well, when Gary's scoring, it's pretty difficult for him to get assists, and in this particular game, Alan had 7 assists, so his passing was very instrumental in helping us keep the team concept going.
More power in the middle. Bob Fife, the Ducks' big young center, following up there for the jam. They're shooting a very high percentage in the first half. Of course, a lot of those were dunks. And, they're getting up, and the outside shot's not falling. Gary was very frustrated trying to shoot the outside shot in this game. In particular, three-pointers, I think just 2 for 14.
Right, that's not typical. Usually he's hitting a better percent from the outside, but Brantley made a nice drive there just a minute ago, and he had, I think, a very good defensive game. He took on Mixon and pretty much blanked him, and that was one of the keys to the win, because if you let him get hot off the penetration of Brandon and Reynolds, they can hurt you with their outside shot also.
Celestine trying to make it happen inside, turns it over there, but the margin starts closing. Oregon led in this game by as many as 12 points in the first half, and now things starting to tighten up, and a few of those shots going from the outside. There's Will hitting one. And here comes the break again. And another turnover, though, but it comes right back. This is the kind of wild stuff that was going on. This drives you nuts.
This drives you crazy. You think you have something going on a break, and then it's stolen back, and you don't even have the time to react to one before another one's happening.
Again, Oregon from the outside. Reynolds, and Reynolds doing the work. Brandon had a good game, but the rest of their offense not clicking. You talk about Mixon, maybe that was the most notable shutdown of the night.
Right. Well, Scotty got some great offensive boards for us, and he, as you stated, had a good game. The last 3 games he's played very solid for us.
Is he getting he's obviously good an offensive big man, going back to Jose Ortiz now.
Well, we hope eventually he'll be a real force. Right now, he kind of plays a little bit to his tiredness. When he gets a little tired, you can see the fatigue really setting in. But he's been a force for us. Gary
dishing off there, nice blind pass to Earl Martin. Gary becomes all-time Pac-10 assist leader in that game. He needed 4, he got the 4.
Right. I don't know which one that may have been it.
Came early on in the game. Now Reynolds on the break, Celestine back at the other end. Now Will Brantley's going to come up with a little double clutch here, and the margin is closing just before halftime. Didn't get the lead back, but the momentum's going your way a little bit.
That's a nice ball fake. Got him up in the air and just penetrated right down the middle.
And now the last 2 baskets of the half. First it'll be Gary, and then Earl Martin. And again, you're closing it down, and you're on the road, and just to make a move like that gets you into a game.
Our offensive boards were very crucial in this game. It was just quick. You miss a shot and you get a quick comeback, and got some loose balls. So it was a good win for us. And Matt Court, Bob, you know how that is. It's devastating. You can't even hear in that place.
At halftime, it is 35-32. And you talk about the rebounding numbers as we come back to the studio. You ended up out-rebounding Oregon for the game, but it didn't look like it because Oregon got so many second chances on their own, and they cleaned the defensive boards very well in the first half. So you're feeling a little fortunate right now.
Right now, you bet. They shot a tremendous percentage, almost 60%, or it was 60%, and that's pretty difficult to overcome on a team's home court. When you shoot 60%, you're not supposed to lose.
Yeah. What was opening up the holes in the middle? Was there any one thing? I know you took Teo out of there, and he wasn't having a good game, but other things.
Yeah, penetration, both against our full court and our half court. We weren't keeping people on the perimeter, keeping in front of us, and to their credit, they penetrated and dished it, and I think they must have set a school record for slam dunks, because they had 8, 9, or 10 of them during that particular run. They just kept throwing her down. Of course, the thing is, a lot of times that breaks the team's back, but we hung in there, and as you say, at halftime, we're right there.
It was 35-32 at the break, and coming up, we'll take a look at second half highlights of Civil War Round 2. Oregon State down by 3 at halftime, 35-32. As we get into the second half highlights, we'll see Gary Payton starting to warm up. And I have to ask you about hands-off coaching. I mean, we've really seen that in you this year. You're not inclined to make the big moves. You like to leave your guys out there and let them sort things out themselves.
Well, that's, when you have experience, and we do have some experience on the floor, and Gary kind of manipulates things. So there isn't a need really to call a lot of timeouts and try to make any drastic changes. The one thing we tried to do at halftime was to say, hey, let's everybody take care of their own business. Don't be, sliding over to help somebody else, because every time we even looked to help somebody else, they were dishing it and they were getting something in behind us. So we tried to stay just take care of your own business and leave everybody else's job alone.
That started to pay off. We pick up second half highlights now, and we'll see Gary getting warmed up with his scoring. He was held down offensively in the first half, and finally does get on the scoreboard here, and let's take a look at it. Payton and Celestine back and forth, and again, we've seen this play a couple times in the breaks. They've run a great 2-on-1.
Right. They work well together, and they have a lot of fun playing. You can see Gary there with the smile when we get our fast break going. We didn't get it very many times. I think they did a nice job taking that away from us. And
you can tell Gary feels like that Al's the guy. He's going to get the ball back from Al.
Right.
Payton underneath now, and it's still about a 5-point game. Oregon in it, and we're going to see Gary miss a three-pointer here, and then Brandon back the other way. Quick lay-in. Again, good transition for Oregon. They had a few of these.
Well, it's difficult sometimes when you're penetrating and shooting if your man just takes off on you, and that's where our off guard. We were a little late. Allen was a little late as you saw him trailing Brandon on that play.
Just a battle for the boards there. No one can get a basket there. Again, it's still out of control. We're early in the second half. Earl Martin now get it back to him.
That was a good hoop. Every time we needed to stay close, we did stay close with a key play from one of our players.
Oregon had been up by 8. That got it down to 6 at that point, and now we're going to get to see Celestine get it to Gary again.
Gary doesn't leave much space to slide by. You see, he almost becomes a thinner man when you get in traffic.
Now Will Brantley, Celestine back-to-back coming up here, and a quick 6 points. Gets it down to a 4-point game just before the 12-minute mark, and that confirms we are going to have a ball game down the stretch. To the baseline, there's the move. Round and in.
Nice play. Another good ball fake, getting somebody off their defensive position and penetration.
Gary now going to make it happen by himself. He's going to go in, draw the foul, a 3-point play. This makes it a 1-point game. Timeout coming up at the 11:20 mark. We're going to see this again. Gary working underneath. No room, but he just makes room for himself.
They're chatting there, trying to get their plans together.
There it is again.
Right there.
No room at the end, but he just makes a little space and draws the foul. So it's a 1-point game now. Oregon's still fighting it off a little bit, but Brantley is going to get his hoops. This was Gary's 4th assist right here, which put him over the over the top. It's 50-49, and Oregon's going to come down to the other end. They'll get the big play from the big man, Bob Fife, playing better and better. Draws a foul. They go back up by 4. Beats the trap.
You see where Allen thought Gary was going to come up with a steal on that play, so he started to lean towards the fast break, and then Brandon got inside of him.
Payton with the turnaround. And now Gary gets called here for his 3rd foul underneath. This didn't make anyone happy at that moment. We've still got a lot of time left, about 9 minutes left, and this is, we're going to see it again, and you'll see it's very halfway, and you didn't like that at all,
I
did
don't
you?
like that call at all.
We'll get to see it again.
Because you have to hook the person. You don't. There's no rule that says if you put your arm out, you have to actually hook him. And you can see Brandon thought it was kind of a funny call too, and he was enjoying that a lot.
Well, Brandon will come back to the other end and get a second chance.
That was a good ball fake for Brandon too.
Gets it again, makes it happen.
Yeah.
Oregon back up by 5 here, and so now it's time for one more little surge. We're down to about the 5-minute mark now. Haskins going to get a big second chance again over
That's
the
a good
top.
one, yeah.
Got that all night long. And now here comes the 2-on-1, and this time Celestine is going to get it, and he'll just take it. Nice fake here, just goes in by himself.
Well, Scott set that up with his shot block, and that's one thing you do need out of a big man, occasional block to intimidate people, and that certainly was a key one at that point of the game.
All right, Gary ties the game with a free throw, and then gets called for his 4th foul with 4 minutes left, puts the Ducks on the line. You're going to leave him in here at the 4-minute mark in a close game anyway, right?
He plays a lot with 4 fouls. I wish he wouldn't do that.
Oregon back ahead by 2, and then the big 3-point play. Payton draws the foul, and it's the first lead of the game at 63-62 with just 3 minutes left. Now in the key, here's another one.
They changed their defense up, and they were in zone, they were boxing one, and different. You know, you have to make some subtle adjustments, not a lot when you have Gary, because he just goes and gets the ball, and everybody else kind of spreads and keeps their passing lanes open.
Actually had a 3-point lead. That didn't last.
That
Brandon
didn't,
hits a
yeah.
3-pointer. Here comes Reynolds again. Oregon goes back ahead. Now we're down near the 1-minute mark, and it's going to be Gary on the follow-up. Go back up, ties it at 67. Nice second chance. He's going to come back here, force the turnover. Lucas trying to make it happen. Can't go anywhere, gives it up. And now in a tie game, both teams with the opportunities, and now Haskin gets called over the back. Now, we'd seen this the whole game.
Yeah.
This time he gets whistled for this.
It looks like he fouled Earl. Maybe Earl should have been shooting. One of our own men.
Well, here we go. This sets up the big one now in the final seconds. Fife at the free throw line, misses the one-on-one. You get to bring it all the way down, and I'll just let you say what happened, what you thought would happen here.
Well, they cut Gary off with the pass, so Allen was going to take the shot, and as he penetrated, he saw Scott slide in on the backside when they tried to stop him, and you know, he just reverse laid it, and that was history.
We get another look at it, and this is a perfect pass. You'll see the ball come right at the camera here, and you don't do it any better than this.
This is what they did to us when they were getting their slam dunks. They'd penetrate and then dish it underneath, and of course that wasn't a slam dunk, but it's 2 points nevertheless.
Now, it's not necessarily the easiest shot to make, the reverse. No. And what does Scott do? He comes back, he's made the big shot, they're trying to get it in, blocks the inbounds pass, seals it right there. So a great game for Scott Haskin, great way to end it.
We had a time out there, and Freddie, we have different ways we can do it, but Freddie Boyd suggested that we put Scott on the ball, and it certainly worked to our advantage on that suggestion.
69-67 the final, and Don Munson, who just loves to get his teams up against you, has to take one at home. It's been a great ride, but Matt Court is where the games have really been hot this year.
Well, they're tough at home. There's no question about it. They had a 5 or 6 game winning streak. You know, those kind of games, boy, you're happy when you win. You really feel bad when you lose, and you know, every coach goes through it. It's tough.
Here are the numbers. Payton ends up with 30 points, still gets his points, 4 assists in the game, which is actually a little low. Haskin with 14 and 4 assists. The rebounding margin comes out +9. Sure didn't seem like it. And that 3-point shooting, 2 for 14. Now, I have to ask you, we've heard, of course, Syracuse coach Jimmy Boeheim has told his team not to shoot any more 3-pointers because he didn't like the way it was affecting the game. Do you ever think of anything drastic like that?
No, not really. I think as long as it's part of the game, if a person feels that he's on rhythm and he can make it, I'm not going to inhibit anybody from taking it. But you know, if you miss 2 or 3, I think players have to be smart enough to say, hey, maybe I get a hoop on a lay-in or something a little closer in, and then go back to it if it comes later. Don't want to force the issue.
Yeah. Well, coming up, we're going to talk with our player of the week. It is, of course, Scott Haskin. We've been saying his name all day so far. We'll chat with him in just a moment.
Yeah, he did have it.
Well, no question about it. Our player of the week has to be Scott Haskin, the sophomore center who we didn't think would even be playing a year ago. Thought we'd give him the redshirt year. He wanted to play. He got his time, and now he is starting to make an impact as a sophomore. We talked with him this week.
It was a great feeling. I mean, you know, to know that I can be counted on in the final seconds, you know, that gives me a lot of confidence. And it felt really good just to beat the Ducks down there and to be able to look at the fans and say, we're #1 in this state. My defense needs to be better. I think I need to get quicker on that aspect of the floor. And on offense, I think I need to have a little bit more open vision around the floor. I mean, sometimes I tend to get a little narrow-minded, although I do work on that quite a bit in practice, you know, trying to see everybody, or as much as I can, and, you know, be a good passer at the same time, trying to be a good post player. And, like, sometimes I'd want to go somewhere my body wasn't ready to do that. And I feel now that my coordination is there, and, yeah, I'm getting very comfortable playing in a 6'10" frame. Last year, I think I was a little bullheaded, and I really wanted to play and see what it was like. But now that I look back on it, from a much more mature point of view, I mean, basketball-wise, I really wish I would have redshirted, and then I could still be a freshman right now. But I have really no regrets about playing last year, but it would have been nice to have that extra year.
Now that had to be tough last year as the assistant coach, knowing you're going to be taking over, and you're thinking, let's redshirt this guy. Let me have him for 4 years.
Well, not really. You just kind of do what the team needs, and it seemed at the time it might be appropriate because we were needing a little inside help at that time. So, you know, I don't have any feelings one way or the other. It's a decision you have to make, and when hindsight comes, you kind of maybe say, well, this or that, but what the heck, those things happen.
We saw the flashes of brilliance last season, and now it really is blossoming. You say maybe the thing he's had to work on much is his stamina. You couldn't leave him in that long.
That's part of it, and also confidence. You know, you come from a small school, and you get into the big league, so to speak. You know, it's a different world for adjustments and physicalness, and he's made the good adjustment, I think, and he's playing confident, and he's playing smarter. He's using his eyes and his feet to his advantage, and also eventually he's going to learn how to use that hook shot, and when he does, he's going to find out it's going to help his offensive game a lot more.
Well, this had to be a breakthrough game, getting over 30 minutes and being involved in all the key situations. He makes the big shot, makes big defensive plays.
He's making free throws, and the thing about it, I think he's playing intelligent now. He's not just out there. He's catching the ball. He's feeling that he's part of the team and that he can contribute, and that's a confidence thing for any young man.
All right, well, coming up, we're going to take a look back in history, visit with another one of those old coaches, this time Paul Valenti joining us to tell us some good stories about Jimmy. Stick around. This week in our Look Back segment, we'll visit with Paul Valenti, another in the line of great OSU coaches. He, of course, came in between Slats Gill and Ralph Miller, but he's very much part of the family that led to Coach Anderson taking over at Oregon State. The fun thing about talking about Paul is he always tells you what's on his mind, and he started by telling us why he gave up coaching at Oregon State in 1970.
It was difficult for me, and I felt that I'm going to have to change. And I felt so strongly about Slats's program, and it was in me so gosh darn tough that it would have been difficult for me to make too many changes and let the kids have a little more freedom and a little more say maybe in what's going on. But at that time I felt very strong, and I felt the last 2 years that I scared more kids away, and I just felt that I wasn't going to be able to get the guys that we had to get in order to make the program go, and I didn't want to jeopardize Oregon State's basketball program to that degree. The first thing that I mentioned to Ralph when I met with Ralph and with Barrett back at the NCAA, that you got to keep Jimmy. I knew that Jimmy down the road was going to be a fine basketball coach.
Is there a good Jimmy story that no one's heard before?
Well, see, now I'm getting at that age now, you know, Bob, where I'd have to give that a little bit of thought, but no, I can't think of anything other than he was just just a heck of a guy to be around all the time. We had a lot of fun together when we were away from our basketball. We had fun with our basketball, too. Tell you another thing, though, old Jimmy and I, we played 2-on-2 for years. Him and I were a team, and even when we were coaching still, at that age, we were still playing a little 2-on-2. We were pretty tough to beat. But I was running the show because I had the seniority, you know.
He was in charge of all that. Now, I can't believe you guys never got in any trouble. I mean, you coached together, both under Slats, and then you had to work for him.
No, gee, we were just perfect people, you know. You know, Paul is such a great person. He's, you know, not only a great friend, he's almost like a big brother. And he's the one that really started me out with my being a graduate assistant and then hiring me back to Oregon State after the 2 years at Newburgh. So he's the one that's made a lot of things happen for me and my family. And Fran Valeni, his wife, is just beautiful, and I just cherish their friendship. I mean, he mentioned this 2-on-2 game. You know, we were undefeated all through our career. We never lost a game. I think we were 2001. We lost the last game and decided we were getting too old. Let's hang up the tennies.
Now, who'd you lose to? You can tell me it was AC and Sitton or something?
Probably. I think it was those two.
Probably got that. But really, here's somebody who, I mean, he called you up when he gets the job and says, I want you down here as my assistant, and then he did say something with Ralph. Just you make sure you keep him here.
That's exactly right. That's Paul for you, though. You know, here's a man that's been at Oregon State for over 40 years, as a teacher, as a helper in the athletic department. You know, how can you ever fault or not love a person that gives that kind of dedication to his school and to his friends?
Coming up, we'll take a look ahead. The Washington schools are coming to town. Huskies and Cougars, oh my. We'll tell you about it in a minute. Back home in Gill Coliseum this week against the visitors from the north, Washington State on Thursday, and then the Huskies on Saturday. We'll take a look at both teams. The Huskies first, they are 8-7, 2-4 in conference, and they snuck in an extra game playing Miami on Monday night, so they're trying to get ready for you.
Well, we watched them play last night, and they had a fine game. I think they're playing their best basketball right now. They have experience, they have good outside play, they got good inside play, discipline, tough defense, and they have Kastner, who we feel is probably one of the top guards next to Gary Payton in the conference.
This is really an experienced team, although Lynn Nance shook things up, sticking Doug Meekins in there. Quentin Youngblood got some time against Stanford, and then as the things fell apart against Cal, so they went back to the old lineup last night.
Well, all that does really is give depth to a team, and it means that they can call on people down the bench because they've had playing time, they have experience. And this Brown had a great game last night, and he's really coming on to really help their team effort.
Deion Brown, we saw plenty of, only a junior this year. We saw too much of him last year as a sophomore, so they are a team that can do a lot of things.
He can jump too.
It's been a good rivalry at Gill over the years. We had some of the better games there. Remember Chris Melp against Jose Ortiz, and they bring their fans down, and they like to be there. Cougars in first, though, on Thursday. Kelvin Sampson still trying to put it together up there. They are 7-9, just 1-5 in the conference, and I'm sure disappointed at being swept at home by the Bay Area schools.
That's got to be tough losses. When you lose at home and you're in things for a while, but you lose at home, you're in trouble.
They're coming in first on Thursday, and again with the Huskies to point at. You got to get motivated for that first one, though.
Well, they have some good players. They have experience. Neil Evans is a fine inside player. Coach Sampson feels that he has the best group of guards they've had there in years. So with good guards and at least one good big man, Payne is 6'11", and he's coming on strong for them now. So they have some talent, and they'll be tough to beat.
All right, we'll talk about it next week. Huskies and Cougars this week. We'll be back next time. For the coach, I'm Bob Akamian. This is the Jimmy Anderson Show. Here's how the Pac-10 stands this week. The Beavers tied for the lead with UCLA at 5-0, and of course they're the two top-ranked teams in the various polls. The Beavers in the top 20 in all but the UPI coaches poll this week. California checking in at 3-2. They got one win out of their visit to the Great Northwest, the victory over the Huskies, and also the win against the Cougars, so Cal gets the sweep. Arizona at 4-3 now. 3 conference losses for the Wildcats. Who'd have thunk it? Although Arizona will be very tough at home the rest of the way, so they're a team you expect to win all the home games. But with 3 losses, they are going to have a tough go of it to win the conference. Stanford checking in at 2-2 after their 2 games in the Northwest. The Ducks now 2-3, still in very good position in the conference. Arizona State at 2-4. They lost 2 in Los Angeles. Washington also 2-4 now as they head this way. USC at 1-4, and the Cougars come to Gill Coliseum on Thursday night in last place with a 1-5 record. Let's check the complete Pac-10 schedule for the games beginning on Thursday. The Cougars visiting Oregon State at Gill. The Huskies are going to be down at McCourt taking on the Oregon Ducks. The LA schools up in the Bay Area, the big California rivalries being renewed. USC plays at the Harmon Arena against Cal. UCLA at Maples Pavilion against Stanford. On Saturday, the Huskies, of course, come to Gill Coliseum to face the Beavers. USC will play at Stanford. Arizona out of conference playing Oklahoma, big national TV game there. And Arizona State hits the road. They'll be playing the University of Miami, same team that played the Huskies on Monday night. Sunday, the final two games of the weekend. The Ducks will be hosting Washington State, and a real traditional game, UCLA playing at Cal. UCLA, of course, dominated that series for years before Cal was able to break that long winning streak at the Harmon Arena a few years ago. So that's how we set up now. After 5 games, the Beavers and UCLA, of course, headed for the big showdown. That's going to be the key game. It's a week from Saturday, though. 3 more basketball games will be played between now and then. So both teams will have to really work at it to remain undefeated. But that's where we're setting up the number 1 and 2 teams in the conference. And again, Arizona in a unique situation already with the 3 losses. Technically, you would have to say they were out of contention to win the conference regular season title with the 3 losses, but Arizona so good at home, you don't expect them to lose there the rest of the way, so it all depends on how things go on the road. They will be hard-pressed to win too many more road games, and they're going to have to play in the Bay Area and also play up in Seattle. So the Beavers wins down in the Bay Area looking very good right now. UCLA, again, will get to be at home after this weekend. They're staying in state, and they will get to come back home next weekend against the Ducks and the Beavers. So the Bruins in a good position to make some hay once they get done with this road trip. But that trip to Berkeley is going to be very difficult for the Bruins. Cal has started to kind of get the edge in that series after they broke the long streak there a couple of years back. So that's how the Pac-10 stands this week. We'll be back next week. Again, more Oregon State features. Freddie Boyd and Andy McCluskey will be talking about their days as players and now as coaches. We'll see you next week on The Jimmy Anderson Show.
This is the Jimmy Anderson Show, the weekly report on Oregon State University basketball.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Akamian, along with the coach. Welcome to this week's show. The trip to Los Angeles coming up. Here you are in first place at 7-0. Everyone's chasing you. And you've got the closest pursuer, UCLA, and USC, a team that's playing very well at home. So it only gets tougher this week.
Well, Bob, this trip is always most difficult because UCLA and SC always have outstanding athletes. So I don't think any of the trips this year are going to be any fun, but this one especially is very difficult.
We are moving up in the polls this week, and you get up to 16 in the UPI coaches poll. You get a little response from the other coaches now. You haven't been in there this year.
Well, I think it's a combination of us winning 2 at home and then other teams across the country that are in the top 20 that had some defeats themselves. So now I think the coaches are coming out and giving us a little credit.
This past weekend, the Washington schools, that we didn't have those fantastic finishes, the one-point games down the stretch, but also the pace was a little different. I know that wasn't quite to your liking either.
No, the games were very close, except for maybe right there at the end when we had a pretty good advantage. However, the teams that we're seeing now are all using zones of some sort, and they're doing this mainly to confuse us a little bit, but really to really contain Gary Payton, because nobody really can handle him one-on-one, and a zone defense is probably the best to keep him on the perimeter.
Let's pick it up Thursday night from Gill Coliseum. Washington State in town. Beavers winning it 79-64. Kelvin Sampson bringing his gang in here. They are a scrappy bunch. You got off to a good start when you were able to take the ball away on the press. They did it to you in the half court. They made you work for it.
Right, they made us work for it. You can see they're in a zone here right now, making us pass and penetrate some of the seams. But Earl got a good start for us, and jumping out early really helps the team in regards to confidence and being on top from the start.
This is their little fellow, number 10, Seltzer. We talked about him last week, and he is a good future for them. He sets up a tip for Thomas to slam it home.
Right, Thomas hurt us on the board. Seltzer is very quick. We couldn't really press him like we really wanted to because he is quick and really handles pressure well.
Teo getting off to a good start on offense, and now we're going to see Haskin put one in off the glass. Again, nice pass from Will Brantley. There is Will putting one down, but you've got to get that quick shot off. You only have really one good pop inside before they collapse on you.
You bet. They work hard, and they're a good team. They're a lot better than their record indicates.
Here's the one-on-one battle of the night. Payton against Seltzer. Gary will win this one, get the turnover, and get the score. But Seltzer got his legs in this game.
Right, well, our efficiency on turnovers I think, are probably one of our better statistics. We give up a lot of offensive boards, but on our turnovers, we convert them quite well, as you can see here.
Here's the break. Martin and Brantley very strong to the hoop. Again, the two of them playing very aggressively now when they get the ball in the open court. They know where they want to go. Here comes Earl again. This time gives it up.
Right, they're making good decisions at the end, and they're taking good shots, and they're not forcing the play.
Earl strong on the boards. It's a 10-point lead early, 19-9. Big start, but then things change around a little bit. Teo with a turnover after getting a turnover, and Wood will take this in all the way by himself. He's been their leading scorer this year.
Oh, he's a nice player. Good build, good experience, good talent.
Kelvin Sampson there trying to exhort his troops. Now we're going to see in the transition here, Gary is going to find Brantley.
Yeah, that's a tough play right there, to take it in a mob like that and then take it on the reverse side.
Beating the pressure. Payne had a couple of good long passes here to beat the press tonight. He made this work a couple of times.
Right, he plays in the middle of their attack against our press, and he's so strong, he can throw the ball with ease a long distance and really hurt you against his own pressure.
There's Al Celestine with a nice setup for Earl Martin. Earl, good power move, draws the foul. We're going to see a little of Al Celestine in action here, and he is doing more and more when he gets in there now.
Well, his stats are very impressive for minutes played, and here again, he helps us in every area of our game execution.
More good ball movement here, beat the zone. There's McIntosh down low.
Nice play by Mac. Hope we can get him playing more minutes. It's just kind of hard right now in our rotation and games being so close, but you know, starting last year, he's really been a real plus because his attitude has been good and he's really working hard for us.
37-34 at the half. Again, they beat the pressure here. Payne this time to Seltzer, and it stays closer through a large part of the middle of the second half. Good play coming up here. Carl Anderson in there getting the board, and that's what he's in there for. Great movement down the floor, and here's Gary. Every which way gets the basket.
Right. That's a nice play. Making a good jump stop in basketball is very important because it gets your body under control, and he did a beautiful job there.
Another Carl Anderson follow-up, and that's where you want him, is inside.
Right. That's his best forte, really, is rebounding, and he's a good athlete.
Seltzer now beats Al Celestine, found a guy he could go one-on-one with, and he had the points for them. And off the bench, Bob Cavell. We saw him a couple of times this weekend. Cavell there finishes off the break, and now here's another guy from the bench who's jumping in there and making the contribution.
Yeah, well, he's a junior, and he has talent for us, and he's a very intelligent player, and he gives us some wisdom on the floor and some good game execution.
The numbers from the game, Gary Payton was the leading scorer with 24 points, 4 steals for him in that one. Earl Martin, 13 points and 9 boards to go with that. And Teo Alabegovic getting into the scoring act, 12 points and 5 rebounds. And that's where you want to see him make the improvement defensively, rebounds.
Right, he's our most physical athlete. I'd like to see him take that 5 to 10 and get it up there in those double figures because that's where we really, really need help.
When we come back, we'll take a look at the rivalry of the weekend. The Huskies coming to town, always a great one at Gill. We'll show you what happened on Dog Day in a moment. The Huskies came to town for a Saturday afternoon game, and Lynn Nance in his first season making some changes. He's trying to play the younger players, and didn't quite see what we expected. Eldridge Rakasner had the flu during the week,
Right.
and he ended up coming on and playing. He didn't get going until the second half. They shot very poorly in the first half, and that really kept him out of it. In fact, they didn't shoot well for the game. We'll pick up the action here.
Well, Brown.
Not what you'd expect, but Dion Brown was all
had
over
a
the
good
place.
First half. Well, I tell you, he really hurt us, and then we cut him off, and then all of a sudden, here comes Rakasner.
All right, let's see it. Full house at Gill, 10-4. We got a few of these sellouts here down the road. I know the UCLA game's already sold out. Here we go early on. Huskies get several opportunities, can't make it happen. Haskin comes down with the board. He's going to find Gary for a layup here. Gary did not really shoot that well in this game. This was his best shot, really, would be the inside play.
Well, you know, when they really bang the offensive board on you, you've got to convert on the other end and take advantage of their overcommitment there. And they got 20 offensive boards on us. We equalized it a little bit with some fast breaks.
Here's Gary. He gets the assist to Brantley, and now he's going to set up Earl Martin. 4 of 3, and that's been a good shot for Earl all year.
That's what Gary's going to have to do this week also is, you know, sacrifice maybe his own scoring to help the other, because they got 2-3 guys coming at him every time.
And he can get him there. He gets it right to Earl inside after the steal by Haskin. So we're out to the 7-point lead here. It becomes a 10-point lead. Again, here's the break. Gary's going to give it up. And here's Earl.
Those are pretty, aren't they? I like that part of the game, especially when they go in.
This is one of the young faces for the Huskies, Doug Meekins. And we're going to see a little more of him in the years to come.
He's a good athlete, very active. When he gets the ball in low, he's very, very difficult to contain. You know, Bob Cavill came in and just did, I thought, a tremendous job on him. Frustrated him a little bit and really kept the ball away from him.
Carl Anderson in there, but lead up to 13 here now with 6 minutes left. But here's Dion Brown coming up. Hayward gets it to him, and Brown really brought him back before the half.
He's a great athlete. He had 16 points in that first half. He ended up with 18, so he only got 2 in the second. But then, as we said, Rakasner took over in the second half for him.
33-26 at the half. And there's the shot that ends the half. Get it inside to Martin for the jumper. Celestine sets him up nicely. So 7-point game at the half. And now here they come in the break. And here's Meekins and Merritt, the 2 youngsters for them, making it happen very quickly. Cut that lead down to 5 points right away.
Well, Merritt played with Gary in high school. They were both on the same high school team at Skyline. And so they were chattering a little bit out there. And there's a nice play by Allen.
There's Al going in, draws the foul. Good strong move. So he's showing a little diversity here. He hits the outside shots. He was perfect in this game. Didn't miss a shot.
That's what you kind of like. That doesn't happen all the time for sure. And of course, Bob Cavill was perfect in this game too. He hit all his shots.
Yeah, we get to see him here down the stretch. Rakasner warms up in the second half. This brings him back into it. In fact, they lead a couple of times by a point. Brantley now following up Haskin's miss. That's kind of a reversal there. Will gets in there to help Haskin out. And now we're going to see Bob Cavill off the bench just inside the 3-point line.
That was a key shot, too. That was a key shot.
Push the lead back to 5 with 5 minutes to go. And from that point on, UW is unable to do more than trade baskets, and this maintains the lead. Gary here with this reverse layup against Celestine with a nice assist. This kind of broke the backs now. And we'll see Celestine and Cavill again down the stretch with the big hoops and more of the bench. Carl Anderson, Bob Cavill, Al Celestine, and people were wondering beginning of the year, is he just going to play 6 guys? It's just happening as you go along.
Right, I'd like to be able, or our staff would like to be able to use more, because we feel in practice we're getting some good play out of some of our other players too, but the rotation is hard when you're in close games.
Well, we talked about Lamont McIntosh, who has certainly been effective in there, but there just hasn't been the minutes.
Exactly.
Final score, 70-63 down the stretch. The lead holds up, and there was, we missed Bob Cavill again. We've cut him off twice now. The numbers for the game, not really stunning. The Huskies really never shot well, and that's maybe a little disturbing when they get back into the game, only shooting 37%. They still got back in.
Yeah, you have to credit some of that to defense. They may be rushing their shots, and with Big Scott in there, sometimes they have to shoot a little bit higher and rush it, and you know, credit them, but also always credit the defense a little bit if a team shoots bad.
7-0 in the Pac-10. Time to go on the road. We'll talk about our feature player of the week coming up. Al Celestine. We'll talk with him in a moment. Al Celestine is slowly showing us more and more of his stuff as the season goes along, filling in for Gary Payton. We've seen him on defense. We've seen him handling the ball. We've seen him dishing off assists. We've seen him scoring now. Again, a perfect day shooting against the Washington Huskies. We talked to Al this week about his career and about his association with Gary Payton.
I don't know, I guess